Hi there, my name's Luke, or welcome back to PhotoBite, and today we're checking out the Leica M10-R. There's not a whole lot to say about this camera because Leicas are just so simple, so we're also throwing in the question if you should be getting a Leica too. I think you should get a Leica because they're really nice, hold their value, and they're really nice. Right, there we go. Okay, so the Leica M10R, R stands for resolution. What is that resolution, Luke? That is 40 megapixels. Very much like the M10 monochrome, but not black and white. This is color. Love color. Big fan of color. And it's pretty much an M10P, but with a better sensor. So you're getting the quiet shutter, the ISO range of 100 to 50,000. They've improved the long exposures up to 16 minutes from 4 minutes, if I recall correctly. And you have like a 10-shot buffer because the resolution is just so high. It's actually still impressive. You got the touchscreen, don't know if I mentioned that. You got built-in Wi-Fi, which is fantastic. So yeah, that's the specs done. Let's move into the review. So it's a bit of a different approach when you're talking about Leicas because you don't talk about the autofocus tests, and to be fair, if you're a Leica user, you really don't need to know because you're the autofocus. In terms of resolution, it's fantastic. If you're eyeing this camera up for resolution, highly recommend it. The color science is there, you're not losing anything out. Highlights, dude, highlights, absolutely amazing. I was able to pull back so much just in the raw files, but just the retention in the JPEGs is incredible. Shadows, you know, very good as well, but highlights, if you're ever gonna shoot with this, overexpose, every time. So yeah, that's the review. Okay, moving on. Just kidding. I'm kidding. There's a lot to talk about, sort of. It's just such a simple camera, but that kind of is reminiscent of the M series. It's a simple camera. You are the photographer. You're not relying on autofocus. You're not relying on loads of frames per second to get that shot. It's on you, and it makes every photo you take all the more worth it. Which is nice, but it's odd because we live in a world where we rely so much on technology, and then here we have a Leica, and yet you are in control and you're the one that messes up, not the other way around. So if you really are, you know, if you believe in photography as an art form, without going to film, the Leica is probably the closest you'll get to having that experience. And arguably you could go down the poor man's Leica of a Fujifilm, but you still have the backup of autofocus amongst other features, and you can change the look because they have several different simulations. Look, I can talk about Fujis because I'm currently filming with one and I own one, so I'm going to say what I want about them. They are fantastic cameras, Fujis, but there's just something about using a Leica that just changes the way that you view photography. Every photo you take is all the more filled with intention. It's not just so much of a happenstance. It didn't just come about. I mean, arguably in street photography, that is the art form. It is being in the right moment. But it's not just being in the right moment with a Leica. It's getting the focus right, getting the settings correct, because there is next to nothing helping you getting that photo. And that's why I love shooting Leicas, because it reminds you of how bad a photographer you are and where you need to improve. So now that we've got that out the way, let's talk about some of the things I don't like about the Leica M10R. And that is the ISO dial. If you're comparing it to the Leica film cameras, this is where your canister wind-up would be when you're done with your film. But now they've replaced it with this, and you literally have to you physically have to lift it up like that, adjust your settings, and then pop it back down again. You can kind of do it, well, you have to do it with two things. You got to push down and pull up. And when it's a very expensive camera, I'm terrified to use that dial because I don't own it. So you sign a waiver, and if you break it, you buy it. So when you have to yank a dial up like that, it's a little unnerving, but you know, you get used to it. And then you got to put it back down again. This one's more of the lens. There's very strong vignetting on the 35 1.4. Now you could argue that it has character. It gives the photos character. I accept that, okay? But for £3,000, I want to choose what character it has. Arguably, you don't get a say in that because these lenses, they're so damn tiny. Obviously there's no motors in there, so it makes them smaller. I'm currently shooting on a 35mm equivalent, which is what this is, and it's at least a third bigger. So it just goes to show you that Leica have mastered small lenses. The battery compartment is a bit of an issue. So the problem you have with the battery compartment, if we get that in focus quickly, is if you have a tripod mounted onto here and you have one of these on top, you have to unscrew the mount to then get access to the battery and the memory card. So it's not exactly the easiest thing to do. And if you do put this on a tripod for some rare reason, yes, I did put it on a tripod, it's not overly convenient. The reason they do this is so that you have that film feel of a Leica, and you can't argue with that. It is a nice feel. It's very flush where it sits with the leather that's wrapped around it, so I'm not going to go on about it, but you know what, it wouldn't hurt if they just adjusted it just a little bit, just to make it a bit easier for some of the users. But again, not everyone is going to be using a Leica on a tripod. I don't know about you, but I find the viewfinder could actually be a little bit smaller, because when you look through it, I don't know if it's because of me, I've got glasses or whatever, but you can only really see like a part of the frame. I'm not talking about because it, you know, depending what focal length you put on here will dictate what it adjusts the framing to, but I do find it hard to see the whole frame. You have to kind of look around and see, oh, okay, you can see quite a lot, but my eye can't see that much. So I'm into like look around and move the camera, which isn't ideal. You just want to take it to your face, wait for the moment and take a picture. We have to like move, oh, there he is, and take a picture. It's just, it just doesn't seem like a fast flow. Maybe I need more time with using the viewfinder. I did kind of catch myself using the live view because you can do peaking and you can focus that way. I honestly, to be fair, I call it cheating because it's borderline autofocus. It's kind of doing the work for you. It is helpful in some circumstances. But that's pretty much where it ends. This camera is absolutely amazing. If you're looking at a Leica, highly consider the M10R. If you have any questions, leave them down in the comments below. If I missed anything, you guys are Leica fans, so I'm sure you'll let me know. But as always, my name is Luke, this is PhotoBite, and we'll see you next time.